Hello and welcome to the TechBytes audiocast. My name's Tim and I'm from the TechBytes blogazine, and with me is Dr. Roy Shestowitz from the TechBytes website.
It's Friday night and I'm gonna get sauce. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. He tried to boss me and was outbossed. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. Underneath his creeper bridge, hoping goats will cross. Quoting Ashcroft and Tom Ridge, I fought.
Hello and welcome to the TechBytes audiocast episode 25. It's myself, Tim, and Roy here today. Unfortunately, there's no Gordon. His last stint was at early hours of this morning, and unfortunately I haven't been able to get hold of him, and we really want to put out a show today. So sorry, Gordon, you'll be sorely missed for this show, and I hope nobody switches off because of Gordon's absence, and I assure you he'll be back with us very shortly. Today we've got a few topics we want to get out. I've got a couple that are close to home that I want to mention on the show. So without further ado, let's go over to Roy and start off the show. Roy, you there?
Yeah, well, one of the main stories I was hoping to go through, and I think it's just going to be easier to discuss on this show, is the issue of mono, and that's kind of back in the headlines to a certain extent. What happened recently, which I personally care about, that's one of my main areas of interest, is that the Banshee program, that's a multimedia player for mostly for GNU/Linux, but it can be for other operating systems as well. This was put as the default multimedia player for the next Ubuntu 11.04. Sorry, 11.04. Yeah. So what actually happened then is people realized that not only will Ubuntu incorporate more components which are laden with Banshee and then have it linked through the menu bar. Also, one of the issues with Banshee, which is unique among the Mono projects, is that it's being developed by Novell. It's got copyrights with Novell. And also it uses, or at least used to use, that's under a question. I get some harassment from people who are big boosters of Mono. They argue that Banshee no longer depends on the library, which is explicitly excluded by Microsoft in the what they call the Microsoft Community Promise. That's an agreement which basically defines the boundaries of the use of Mono, what you're allowed to use and what you're not allowed to use without being sued. And Banshee is one of those things which you know in advance uses something which Microsoft does not allow, so they reserve the right to sue. The other thing, because this is one of the few projects which are solely developed by Novell and are based on Mono, which of course is a Novell project, one of the things which are important to add now is that Novell is being sold to a company I like to call Attach Microsoft, but the real name is Attachmate. And this company doesn't necessarily have much to do with open source or with free software. It never had anything to do with these things. And that relates to the acquisition of Novell in general, and also the sale of the patents to Microsoft. So I'm extremely concerned about that, especially concerned about the fact that Ubuntu is being driven in a direction where it becomes more dependent on Mono and on the Microsoft APIs, despite the fact that the CTO of the company is against that, or at least is kind of aware of the issues. And one last thing I want to say, though, is that when I was doing research for my previous and my latest article about this, I actually found out that the person who Canonical hired for a fairly senior job from Microsoft, this person in Canonical has just been promoted, and he's like the engineering director or something like that. And it kind of worries me that the leading distribution in terms of user base, as far as we know, for desktop, has as one of the main engineering person, a person who used to work for Microsoft and also was the one encouraging the move from the GIMP, which is the subject of many blog items right now, all sorts of reasons we might touch on later. He was the one proposing a replacement that's based on Mono, based on the .NET kind of interfaces, to replace the classic thing. You know, the GIMP actually goes way back, even before the GNOME desktop. In fact, one of the stories of how GNOME came about with Miguel de Casa has a lot to do with, as far as I know, GIMP looking for a new kind of interface in toolkits and things like that. So there was some bit of interaction between those projects. So here they actually throw out the GIMP, and the same person gets promoted, and now Canonical gets itself even a lot deeper in this mud of Mono. And to me, anyway, that was the main story. So I hope, without any planning, I kind of explained this well enough and covered some of the key points. I wonder if you have something to say about that.
I mean, I've blogged very little and written very little about Mono, really, because it has no real bearing on my Linux experience at all. The distro I use doesn't incorporate it in any way. And it's funny, every time you mention the word Mono, the only thing that sticks out in my mind was that game I played a while ago on it, which was G-Brainy, which is really the sort of, for me, exemplifies what Mono represents. There's certainly for me nothing mission critical that requires Mono. And like I say, I've written less and less about it, and really doesn't have an impact on my computing life at all. It's interesting what you say about Ubuntu, and I mean, for me, when you're looking at new users, I usually recommend or install a Ubuntu, or at least an Ubuntu-derived distribution. Will this decision affect the take-up of Ubuntu? I wouldn't think it would, because I think, as we said before in many a show, I've always had the opinion that the average user really doesn't know or doesn't care about the sort of finer details and the possible threats that some of these things may have in the future. What can we do to heighten awareness? We'll just keep doing what we're doing, keep writing about it, and really that's where my relationship with Mono starts and ends. Sorry, Roy, you're going to say something?
I totally agree with you on the point of most people will not mind or care, and I think lots of people who know about the possibility of a free operating system, which they usually perceive as the free to download type of operating system, they think of Ubuntu, and they're being pointed at Ubuntu. And there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've been using Ubuntu for many years, and I use it right now to do this show. But the issue that we have is that people will never be curious enough to find out about things like threats. They just want to get things done. I think there is a good word to explain people who just basically are very target oriented. They know what they want to get done, but they don't actually ask questions throughout, or don't actually show any criticism.
I mean that's perfectly highlighted with Facebook, and I wrote a recent article where people are more than happy to upload their entire lives onto this thing, because it's a free service and it's great and they can chat to their friends, and blindly jump in with everybody else without a moment's thought for anything that might occur as a result of all this uploading of personal data.
Facebook is not actually a special website. I'm just still trying to figure out why people. I know why certain people join that. It's because of the people and because of the commodity people put in the website themselves. And people like to snoop on other people in general. But the site doesn't offer anything which wasn't offered before. I'm aware of lots of sites which enable people to create profiles and put pictures and things like that. But one of the things that people want to do is to be part of a network of people. In the case of Ubuntu, I think it's a bit different. And we're talking about here fairly different subjects. In one case, it's things like privacy, or things like the exposure of, I'm not sure, or maybe even dependency of on a certain platform. And in one case, we're talking about things like the impact of a person using Ubuntu without, shall we say, without attribution to prior work, or perhaps without regard to people who are surrounding the whole community. So even the notion of a community is very foreign to a person who's used to just approaching a shop and saying, well, I'm the customer, and the customer is always right. And lots of people, when they come to Ubuntu, there is the complaint, not just Ubuntu, I suppose any distribution which attracts beginners, is that they're very selfish. They're very, they find a bug and say, well, you have to fix that, it's broken. And even if one of the reasons some developers refuse to make a port to Windows is that they'll say, well, we're just going to get lots of bug reports from people who expect certain level of service on Windows, and then we'll just get bug reports from very, very angry Windows users, jumping up and down and saying, "Oh, you need to fix this. Oh, it works better in Mac OS 10." And it just distracts them from actually developing the application in a better way. One of